I'd like to thank the grace of heaven, the virtues of the masters, and the compassion and mercy of the grand predecessors, senior transmitters, lecturers, and temple masters, and everyone for giving us this opportunity to talk about today's topic, which is chapter 60 of the Tao Te Ching, part 2, okay, ruling a great kingdom. All right, okay, so even though it's a relatively short chapter, but there's a lot to talk about. Okay, so we left off at section 1, if you can see. Okay, section 1, the first sentence. Right, okay, now let's go to the analysis section, which is line phrases 2 through 7. Okay, so here's the first phrase, or phrase second and third phrases. Okay, it's using the Tao to administer the world. Its demons do not have power. Okay, why do we have demons? Okay, now it's at a very broad level. Okay, so the first level is once again many levels of meaning. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, so all right, so the basic meaning at the, we say kingdom level. Okay, external kingdom level, for the wise ruler. It means using the Tao to govern or to administer, to rule a country. So the ruler understands the extremes, right, lead to negative results, whereas using moderation and balance lead to positive results. Remember, we talk about extremes from the first line, right? Using the analogy or the example, the metaphor of cooking a small fish or a delicacy. You can't flip the fish too much, right? Otherwise, it'll fall apart. Or you can't just not flip the dish. I mean, the fish, just not turning on its, to the other side, because it'll be burnt, right? It'll be overcooked on one side and raw on the other side, right? So those are the two extremes. So you have to use moderation. That's why Lao Tzu says use the Tao. Okay, so in this case, the Tao is synonymous with the idea of moderation, which is the middle path, really. Okay, all right. So this phrase, that's why I was getting ahead to this other meeting, is that this phrase just reinforces the metaphor of cooking a small fish from the first phrase of the chapter. So in all aspects of governing, not too much or too little, just the right level of governance or right amount of laws, rules, all that stuff. Okay, so now how does it apply to us on a personal, individual level? Well, for the wise person, this means using the Tao to manage your life, to guide your life, to govern your life, right? Okay. Then further sentence, similar to the ruler, this means what? Avoiding extremes, applying moderation, and balance in all aspects of life. Okay. Now let's look at the third phrase, which is demons do not have power. It's demons. What does that mean? Demons. What does that have to do with demons? Okay. Once again, there are many levels of meaning, a couple levels at least. Okay. That demons in Chinese language is always negative. It's always not a good thing. It's a negative thing. So it means, it literally means demons, devils, evil spirit, ghosts, and all that stuff. Okay. Now, specifically, what Lao Tzu, he's not talking about devils. Okay, Lao Tzu is not talking about devils. Even though you can say one interpretation on a mythological level, we'll talk about that. It could apply, but that's more like in principle, in theory. Okay, but more on specific level, it just means the malevolent and negative elements in life, in circumstance, in people, situations, etc., etc. Okay, so that's what it applies to. It just means the negative, bad things in life, okay, or bad people, whatever. That's the specific, more narrow. Now, in the broader level of meaning, general, it just represents the yin half of the Tai Chi, or the supreme ultimate. Okay, the yin half, the you can say the negative forces of the yin and yang. Okay, the yin and yang duality. We say negative forces. I mean, in this case, negative doesn't mean bad. Okay, so that's why just negative means one half. The other half. In this case, if you look at the yin yang diagram, it's the black part, right? If you want to look at it that way. Okay, all right. That's the generic. All right, the more general. Okay, now this word, there's also, okay, remember, okay, there's that we're talking about this, right? So that means it's demons do not have. Now, this word, son, okay, now, yeah, it's the dictionary meaning, modern usage meaning, it's positive. It means, literally, it means deities, so it's the opposite of demons. It's not the supreme God. It's not the Allah, the supreme God, okay, or Jehovah, or what, okay. But it just means deities. The pantheon deities. Think in the West it would be the Greek gods, the Roman gods, the Norse gods. All those the ancient European tribes. Notion of gods. Okay, that type of gods. Okay, it also means spirit, soul, etc. Okay, but in this context, it doesn't mean that. Okay, it doesn't mean that. It means power. It has power. Okay, all right. So that makes this phrase more meaningful, or makes sense. So at the kingdom level, when the wise ruler uses the Tao, right? Uses the Tao. That's the previous phrase, right? Then the people are protected from the demons. We say, yeah, protected from the demons. And what does that mean? What does that mean? Does that mean like in these, I don't know, in these like you see in the movies, just the latest one, right? Sanchi, and then Power of the Ten Rings, right? Or Legend of the Ten Rings, something like that. Anyway, so they're protecting that village, toe, I think, or whatever, from the demons, right? Okay, it's not that. Okay, so it just means in the context of battling against the forces of evil, meaning negativity, all the bad things, of society. Okay, so that's, in other words, is to create a society that is harmonious and peaceful. But the demons, not the spiritual evil, demons, those spirits or evil ghosts or whatever. It's not those. It represents just the negative things, the negative parts of life, but they're still present. They're not they're not completely destroyed. They're just kept in check. You can say they're quarantined, or they're kept in check, or stuff like that. It's not, because remember, we're talking about the society, the world now. You cannot have just one half of the yin and yang. You can't say, oh, I only want yang. There's no yin. Then you're not living in a duality. That's not called duality, right? Right? That's unity. I mean, the only way to get that, well, in one sense, is if you go to absolute heaven, because actually absolute heaven has neither. But anyway, okay, so that's what just means. So just like in this world, as long as we have this in this physical phenomena, there's always going to be positive and negative. Always. Okay. But you can protect yourself from the negative by doing certain things. So by following the Tao, for example. So that's what this means. Okay. All right. So the yin, or the negative, is not destroyed. It still exists. Okay. Because we're in this duality. All right. So another way is that the Tao ensures the demons. Now, when I'm mean the demons, it's not the evil spirits, remain in their place. It just means that the negative things, the negative, forces, whatever, all the bad things, stay in their place. They don't, how can I say, they stay put in their own realm and held in check. So they keep to their own place. They do their own thing, but they're not, how can I say, they don't intrude into your realm. Okay. So the demons cannot intrude upon humans to cause harm. That's if they have no power. So therefore, it appears that they have no power, or have lost the power to harm the kingdom. Okay. So, all right. So that's what it means. Okay. So that's the more, generic or whatever. Okay. But when the Tao prevails in the world, that means when the Tao is, being practiced, right? Throughout the world, the demons are under control for the human level of internal. Okay. So now that's on the external, but then there's an internal aspect, and that has to deal with, individuals. Okay. Oops, or wrong one. What the heck is this? Is this? Wait. Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's go to diagram 1. Okay. So this diagram 1 is like this, okay? So we're talking about demons, okay? It just represents the yin aspect, okay? The yin aspect. Okay, so we can divide you, here's you in the center, right? Okay. There are 2 aspects. I mean, that's one way of looking at it, okay? There's the external, that's the, your world. Then there's the internal, okay? That's your mind. Now in the external, for the demons represent what? People finding faults, people who, these are, remember, negative traits, okay? Finding faults in you, people that sabotage or, are obstacles, right? Sabotage you, okay? Or people that harm, that mock you, they look down on you, they laugh at you, stuff like that, right? And then people who criticize. I mean, now these are just some specific examples, guys. Okay, it's not necessarily only this. There are a lot more, right? But I'm just using these as general examples. I mean, more common examples. Okay, so these are all the negative stuff, right? These are all negative stuff, pretty negative, right? Faulting you, blaming you, obstructing you, preventing you from, whatever, right? From either doing things or being whatever you want, mocking you, right? Laughing at you, don't, don't believe you or, belittle you and then criticize you, right? Always saying bad things, blaming you, etc. So these are the negative. So these are like the demons, okay, that affect us, you, right, on the external level. But what about internal? That's the mind. So there are demons, right? Fears. There are fears, right? We have fears, either, through many reasons, either lack of knowledge, ignorance, et cetera, right? Okay, fears. Bad habits. We all have, habits that we're not perfect, right? We all have some idiosyncrasies, bad habits, either we picked up when we're very young, right? Or, as we go older, we picked up through our, either through friends, even family, et cetera, right? Okay. And then we also have negative emotions, right? We have sometimes ill will, right? Feelings of, negative thoughts, right? Or, in this case, it's negative feelings, sorry, negative feelings, ill will towards others, like, this stuff like hatred, right? Hatred, that's jealousy, all that stuff. Okay. Those are negative emotions, right? And then we also have selfish, the ego, right? That's why this you is big, you have a big ego, right? Okay. So we have selfish motives, everything wants, how can I benefit, or, how can I gain something, or, how can I achieve, power, fame, or whatever. Okay. All for yourself and not caring about others. So these are, once again, just examples, not, these are not all inclusive. I mean, all exclusive. They're just examples. Okay. More the general examples, right? Of what are these are the negative stuff, right? Okay. So that's internal. So they all affect you, right? Both internally and then there's external. Okay, now how do we, oops, let's go back. Okay, so that's the different levels, okay, for you. Now on the on the personal level, once again, once you have established a well-established cultivation and practice of the Tao, like using the Tao to administer the world, that means using the Tao to administer your world or your life, right? That's the way you can transform the internal demons by replacing them or displacing them with what? Courage from fears, right? That was the first one. Virtues from bad habits, that's the second aspect. Positive thoughts from negative emotions, and selflessness from selfish motives. So you no longer have to fear these internal demons because you're now in a state of calm, peace, quiescence, and tranquility. Okay, so therefore, these demons on the internal side can no longer harm or influence you or have no power over you. That's another saying. Likewise, the external demons will no longer affect or harm you because your well-established cultivation of Tao can, quote unquote, shield you from the external demons. So let's look at diagram 2. So here's the first one. We talk about the demons, right? Within and without. So here we'll talk about the internal side, right? The fears, bad habits, right? So fears can be replaced by what? Virtues, right? Okay. And bad habits, right? Sorry, courage, right? Fears can be replaced with courage, bad habits with fears, negative emotions with positive thoughts, and selfish motives with self. So what you get is this. So on the internal, here's the demons. On your mind, okay, courage is transformed from fears. Virtues are transformed from bad habits. Positive thoughts transformed from negative emotions, and selflessness transformed from selfish motives. Okay, these are just examples. Okay, so that's because of the Tao. Once you have the Tao practice, the Tao, so you are transformed. So notice you is become smaller. You become less egoistic, right? Egotistic. That's okay. Now, what about external? External people. Once again, we have finding fault, sabotage, mockery, criticism. I mean, these are examples once again, but from even though from the previous diagram, right, they would have influenced you or affect you or harm you. But now that with the Tao, that's like a shield that blocks them. Okay, yeah, we say blocks them. It just means that it protects you. Okay, so that these negative quality or negative, aspects of the external world no longer affects you, harms you, or influences you. Okay, so that's what that established, well established. When you rule your life, or when you administer, or when you manage your life, with the Tao. Okay, so now deeper understanding. There's a deeper understanding is this. Okay, the phrase 以道, right? That means using the Tao. Okay, that's what this means. Using the Tao. It means applying moderation and balance, which means using moderation and being moderate. That's using moderation and being moderate. That's the importance of adhering to moderation or balance applies to everything, including itself, including moderation itself. So what it means is that you do not want to be too rigid or strict in applying moderation absolutely to everything. For example, it is not necessary for you to say that absolutely every decision you make has to be exactly in the middle of the road or exactly, half, 50-50. That's rigid. That's not being moderation. Get it? Okay. So moderation has a range, has a latitude, and that latitude or range depends on specific circumstances and applies different in different situations, et cetera, or in context. Another way of saying this, it's contextual. It's based on the situation, based on the circumstances. Get it? Okay, that's moderation. All right. So there's a range. It's not rigid. It's not saying, oh, exactly, midpoint, half. No. Doesn't mean that. Then that means you're not being moderate, because then you're no longer applying moderation to moderation. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So higher understanding is that realizing that in applying moderation or balance, what worked well yesterday may not work well today. That's what I meant by that. It's not rigid, right? It's not exactly. So what may be moderation today, may not be the same tomorrow because circumstances change, situations change, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So what was moderate or balanced yesterday may not be moderate or balanced today. So you cannot just always be exactly middle of the road, because you need to adjust as the situation changes. That's why I call it, it's called dynamic moderation. That's the whole point about the yin and yang symbol. Everything is I'll say in flux, but always transforming, always changing. So that means it's dynamic. It's not static. That's what the yin and yang symbol is. In the center of the diagram, that circle, it's not a straight line through the middle, right, through the circle. It's not a split straight line, right, or vertical line, or whatever you want to call it, vertical line or horizontal line, right? If you split that in the middle, then that means, yeah, it's half and half. It's equal, half, yeah, and it means that's static. That's why in the yin and yang symbol, it's like a curve S. It's like an S-shaped curve in the center or in the middle. That represents its it's changing, it's dynamic. So that's the thing, okay? So in specific case, with well-established cultivation and practice of Tao, using the Tao to administer will, you can transform your internal demons and they will no longer affect or harm you or influence you, okay? So that's the internal side. Remember that diagram too. And the general case, the demons represents all the yin forces of nature that will affect or harm the kingdom and the individual. That's on the general level, okay? All right, not just like evil spirits and stuff like that. Okay, so the implication is this. Just as a wise ruler applies the Tao in governance, right, in ruling kingdom, a wise person also uses Tao to manage life. One must also be cautious about using the Tao as an excuse, using the concept of balance as an excuse to justify one's behavior or conduct. So for some examples, apply moderation or balance in everyday life. Let's look at table D, which is how not to flip the fish too many times, right? That's another way of saying. Okay, so here it is, all right? Okay, 彭小仙, okay? Remember? Okay, so one, we have to recognize or acknowledge that we have fears, okay? Or aversion to, okay? Aversion to something means that things that we like to avoid or you can say almost dislike, okay, stuff like that, all right? Okay, so oftentimes all the indecision, overthinking, etc., are a result of the fear of failure, right? A lot of times, right? You know, most of us, if because we are afraid of failing at something, so we don't know what to do. We become indecisive, or we overanalyze, we overthink, you know, the issue, okay? All right, because we fear we fail, or fear of being wrong, or fear of uncertain. We don't, you know, we're not sure, you know, what's going to happen afterwards, you know, if we take this step or do this thing, etc., etc. Okay, so that fear prevents you from making a decision. So we have to acknowledge that we do have fears. Okay, so then the next step is to build confidence. Okay, so you know, to try to overcome that fear. Okay, so you are wiser than you give yourself credit for. Okay, so yeah, we don't realize that because after all, we have that Buddha nature essence, that Buddha nature wisdom, that we call Mahaprajna, right? The marvelous divine wisdom. We just haven't tapped it, right? Because we haven't manifested. Okay, because there is a part of you, okay, deep within that you can depend on that will never fail you. That's our self nature, Buddha nature, true nature, etc. Okay, so the trick or the key is to figure out how to manifest it. You know, the Buddha nature, the self, and listen to it. You know, listen to its voice. You know, we say, okay, this is one of the major goals of Tao cultivation. That's the whole idea behind Gautama, is to figure out how do we manifest our Buddha nature. It's the divine wisdom of our Buddha nature essence. Okay, I mean, if you want to be more specific, okay, and to discover that channel of communication to your inner, wiser, and higher self. Yeah, Buddha nature, basically Buddha. Okay, so then third is we have to learn to accept things. Okay, now we do how most of us have preferences. Once again, we have preferences. You know, so you know you can say bias is present because we always want to be good. That's you know, I mean it's not bad. It's better than wanting to be bad, right? So okay, but we have to accept certain realities, and that is does not mean it has to be quote perfect unquote. Okay, you know, 100% or 110% or whatever. Okay, you know, okay. The key is we have to accept that in any situation, it can be good enough without being 100%, without being perfect. You know, 90% is very good already. You know, 95 even better, but you know, I think 90, 85, 90%, that's already darn good. That's very good. So we should avoid the perfectionist trap because what happens is if we keep pursuing this, oh, it has to be perfect, perfect, perfect. And also perfect is a relative, it's relative too. Okay, so then what happens is we end up being attached to this idea of perfect. Okay, and just do it and then become, and then that's a vicious cycle too. Okay, and so that will get you nowhere. Okay, so what's important is what is done is done. Time to move on. We reflect on what is done, Yeah, you have to reflect, you have to contemplate, think about it, and learn. Basically, it means learn from it. Okay, also learn from it, but do not keep second guessing. Remember in the previous chapter we talked about, you know, what psychologists, a lot of psychologists, you know, say about, you know, what some of the most unhappy people that they encounter in their, you know, in their sessions, or what are those people who kept second guessing themselves, who kept saying, if only I could have, or if only I should, or whatever. Okay. So if only, you know, whatever. And so they're dwelling in the past. They keep recycling the past, and they end up getting nothing done. And they end up having a miserable life. Okay. Being very unhappy, dissatisfied. Right. So the key is you have to learn acceptance. What is done is done. We can't undo the past, unfortunately. Buddhas can't undo the past. Okay, what is done, but so we should move on. You know, we look for we decide what you want to do from the moment, from this present moment on. Okay, so we learn from the past. Yeah, it's not to totally. I mean, forget the past. You know, as if nothing has happened. Right? You have to learn from that, right? You know, if we've done something wrong or imperfectly or incorrectly in the past, we learn from it and make sure that we don't repeat the same mistakes. Okay, so that's the idea. All right, okay, so let's go back. All right, okay, so the key is this: whether applying moderation to rule a country as a ruler or to manage one's life means using moderation in being moderate. Understand that applying the Tao means dynamic balance, dynamic equilibrium, not rigid or static balance, which means you adjust as you go. What is giving great results in your balancing act today may not be the same as your balancing act yesterday, because every day, every situation is a different and unique challenge. Now, on the internal external level, by having a well-established cultivation practice of Tao, that is using the Tao to minister the world, the demons, that is the yin forces, the negativity, negative forces, etc., will not be able to affect, harm, frighten, or play tricks on you. Okay? All right. Now, let's go to phrases 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay? So that's the second half of the second section or the analysis. Okay? So not only its demons do not have power, its gods do not harm people. Not only its gods do not harm people, the sages also do not harm people. Okay. All right. So now in this case, the second word, sun. Now, yeah, it represents, right? Remember, we say positive deities, the gods of ancient legends, etc. But in this context, it means specific deities. Oh, really? Okay, well, it means yeah, specific deities. Okay, like, you know, the gods of the pantheon. Like, remember we say, you know, Zeus, Apollo, etc. Or the Chinese gods. They also have gods too. Chinese have gods. Okay, um, but in this case, it's more general, and well, it applies at two levels. Okay, it depends on how you want to interpret it. But in the general, it represents the yang half of the supreme. That's the opposite of yin. Okay, represent the demons. Now, this means to hurt, to harm. Okay, this word means harm. Okay, this word means harm. Okay, to harm. All right, but literally means to harm, to injure. Okay, but also in this context, it means to affect or influence in addition to harm. Okay, so now, okay, so the gods, the pantheon of deities. Okay, so on the mythological level, although the demons, you know, there's also demons, right, no longer have the power to harm you. The deities, you know, the gods, the we can say the good gods, you know, represent the positive, right? Unlike demons, you know, the devils and evil spirits, etc., will not maliciously cause harm. So how do they cause harm, though? Well, you know, we can say, well, how do deities do not, unlike demons, you know, which always like to, you know, harm things, right, or hurt people, right, or frighten people, right? Well, the deities don't do that. but they could also cause harm. So how do they do that? Well, the deities may meddle, interfere, or decide to punish the wicked. Like we have the stories of the ancient mythologies, right? It be in ancient Sumerian, the Babylonian, Sumerian, or it really precedes Babylonian, but the Egyptian, Chinese, Hindu, Greek, Roman, Norse god, Norse, mythological stories, right? They have, all these different gods that would interfere in human affairs, or at least punish the wicked, right? What they consider the wicked, right? So in this sense, that's causing harm to humans, right? Okay, so that's one level. Okay, that's why it's called mythological. Okay, but more on the kingdom side, okay, the more practical or the human realm is the wise ruler, by using the Tao in ruling the world, also protects people from the gods, not just from the demons. So the Tao ensures that deities also remain in their place, which is the celestial realm, right? The demons are just as the demons remain in their place, which is the netherworld, where we say the underworld, the different, negative realms or whatever, right, we call them, okay? So all remain in their own realm, all stay in their place, okay? So this way, all, that's the deities and demons, are peacefully coexisting in their own respective realms and do not intrude into the human realm and cause harm. Okay, so that's another level, the kingdom. Now, decisional meaning is that like this. It's like, okay, remember in the society level, the demons are the negative forces that represent the harm caused by negativity, right? Crime, unrest, et cetera, right? Okay. Whereas deities represents, okay, here, the harm caused by well-meaning interference, well-intentioned, okay, well-intentioned, okay. Now, deities, the positive forces, are different from demons. I should say, this is wrong. Sorry, this is wrong. It should be this word. Should be this word. Okay. Okay, all right. Deities, okay, are different from the demons in that they meddle in human affairs with good intentions. That means they have contrivance. Okay, that's your way. Okay, while demons have malicious intentions. So they both have intentions. One's good, one's bad. Okay, though the deities may be well-meaning, that means they have good intentions or good purpose. They want to do it for a good reason or good purpose. Okay, but a lot of times the deities have a holier than thou attitude, right? Because I know more than you, I'm smarter than you, or I'm better than you, right? Okay, but their interference may lead to unintended consequences, right? So this is similar to the saying about the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So we have to be mindful of that, right? Careful of that. Okay. Now, another meaning of the deities, besides the gods, we call it the good gods, the positive side. Okay, the deities represent the well-meaning people, usually those with a superior attitude. They're I don't say condescending necessarily, but people who think they know better than you, they know more than you, they're smarter than you, they're more capable than you, etc., etc. Okay, so but they also like to help others. So they may have a superior attitude, but they also like to help others. Okay, or we say interfere or meddle. So wise cultivators use the Tao also for protection. Okay, from these people. Okay, so on the external side, they recognize it when well-meaning people, they recognize it when well-meaning friends or people interfere or meddle, recognizing that their well-intentioned help could lead to unforeseen circumstances or unintended consequences. Okay, so that's on the external level. On the internal level, we're talking about now cultivators, wise cultivators, right? People who use the Tao, right? Who apply the Tao. Internally, they also recognize in themselves there's an impulse, or sometimes there may be a propensity, okay, impulse, to want to intrude or meddle in other people's businesses too. So they also recognize that, right? Okay, inside that they may have that kind of impulse. So they have to be very, you can say, vigilant, on their guard. Okay, or you can say have exercise self-restraint. Okay, so how do wise cultivators handle these two issues, right? Okay, so externally, by turning down help, they can sidestep potential issues or unfortunate. Now, it doesn't mean that they always turn it down, if they actually need help. Okay, so it just means that there are cases when you don't need to accept their well-intentioned, advice or help or etc. Okay, all right, because it could lead to unforeseen circumstances. Now internally, here's this. With observation and spiritual clarity, and by the practice of minimal or non-conditioned actions, they can help others more, not less. Sometimes by doing less, you can assist or support more, such as teaching them how to fish rather than just giving them fish. This is part of the wisdom of the Tao, right? So now I'm not saying it's always. Remember, we have to apply moderation and moderation, right? So it's not fixed. Don't view this thing as rigid or fixed. That's the problem. Remember, it has to be dynamic. It's it how can I say, it flows. I would say it works with the change. Okay, with the constant change. Okay, it's flexible. All right, it's in harmony. That's another way. That's how we call harmonizing. Okay, harmonizing. That's called 随缘. Okay, it's a harmonizing. Specific, it means harmonizing with the karmic affinities, but it just means it's in harmony with the ever-changing circumstances. Okay, that's the key. All right. Okay. Okay. The other word. Okay. Now, remember we say here. Now they come about the last phrase here. Okay, the sages do not harm people. Okay, so sages. All right. So yeah, people say, oh, it's kind of redundant, right? We know sages don't harm people, right? Okay. Um, yeah, on a superficial level, that's true because they don't harm because they don't have this malicious intent or they don't have any contrivance. That's the better saying. Okay, so it's this similar to deities. Okay, the sages also do not harm, right? Just like the deities don't harm, unlike the demons, right? Because they are non-conditioned. That's the key. Okay, they have no contrivances or intentions. So now, unlike the deities, they do not see themselves as dishing out punishment to the wicked. Okay, like the deities would say, hey, the deities would like to punish those wicked people, right, or the wicked ones. Okay, all right. But the sages don't have that type of desire or those wishes. Okay, they understand the importance of letting people follow their nature. They will not try to save people from themselves and end up causing more harm than good. So that's where the wisdom part comes in, right? Okay, so they you know they have to sages recognize that people have their own karmic affinities, okay, or their own karma, so they can't change that, but they'll try. They don't want to save people from themselves, that is from their own karma, and end up causing more harm than good, because that just delays it or adds a second element, right? Like if you see a lot of people say, a lot of times people, you read in the scriptures, by a holy teacher and others that, when you have, two people are, let's say, arguing or fighting, and then you joined in, you know, on one side or the other, then what means is that their karma, these two people, that, their karma is that they have this, they have this dispute and they end up, either fighting or whatever. Then when you get involved, then that means you're bringing on that karma onto yourself. Okay, so that's not good. Okay, so now it doesn't mean that you should never help out, in cases. No, it doesn't mean that. But just understand that then your karma, their karma is going to be connected to you, and then that means you're going to, in the future, your karma will be linked with them. Okay, so that's all right. Now, there's another meaning is this. Unlike the deities, the sages understand the wisdom of non-interference, right? Remember the phrase, take the world with non-interference? That's the third phrase, chapter 57, all right? So when the Tao is prevalent in the kingdom that is prevails in the world, or in accordance to the Tao, the sages and deities actively help the people, okay? They do, but as long as the Tao is prevalent, okay? Now, additional meaning is that when the Tao is not present, on the other hand, okay, the flip side, it's not when things are contrary to the Tao, then the deities may cause issues inadvertently, okay, or unintentionally. While sages may withdraw from people to reduce their influence. Sages will no longer be actively involved, okay, in helping people, all right, because the Tao is no longer present in the world. Okay, now, on the personal level, unlike the deities, on the external side, the sages offer their assistance to you unconditionally. That's the Wu Wei part. So they also do no harm. That's why they do no harm. Okay. Now, on the internal side, when you feel the urge to interfere in other people's affairs, although well-intentioned, that's a positive trait, you think other people must need your help, and you need to show people how you can help. That's coming from the ego. Okay, so let's go to diagram 3. Oops, yeah. Oops, sorry, not wrong one. Diagram 3. Okay, let's go to diagram 3. That's the yang. Here's the yang, right? The deities. Okay, the deities, like the deities. Once again, it's you. Here's you in the center, and then there's we split up into two sides: the external and the internal, your world and mine. So on the external world, there are well-intentioned, well-meaning friends who want to help you, right? You need help. They also need help. Or people who tend to have maybe a superior attitude, who think that they're more capable than you, they're smarter, etc. Okay, they're better, so they're superior. So they're always saying, "Oh, you're doing it wrong. So here, let me show you how, or let me do this for you, or whatever." So that's these are two examples. Okay, just they're more. Okay, I'm just using basic examples. Okay, these are all called interference from others. So that's the external side, how they could influence you. So the deities, that's where the deities are. Okay, can affect you. All right. Now internally, what are the deities in your mind? You have this thought of, oh, they need me. They need my help. They need my help. I'm I know more than them. I'm more helpful than them. I'm more experienced than them. So yeah, I can help them out. So that's once again, right? Your voice inside you telling you that, hey, yeah, you should go help them. Because you're better than them. You know more, right? You have more experience. Or you have the superior attitude. I don't say condescending attitude, because you say, hey, I know more than them. I've done this before. I'm smarter than them. So I show them. I need to show them how, how to do that. Okay, so that's the desire to interfere, right? That's the desire to interfere. Now, this on the internal side, this all stems from our ego, right? That these are our ego, this is our ego talking, right? They need me, I'll show them. Okay, so that's internal. Now, that's the deity within. Okay, so now, how do we change that? How do we change that? Right. So here's the key. So on the internal side, okay, once you have a well-established cultivation and practice of Tao that is using the Tao to administer the world, you can transform the desire to meddle in other people's business by replacing the ego, the me part, to not being about you. Okay. And from showing off to others, that's the desire to, I'll show them, right? I'll show them how. I'll show them, how to do this or whatever. Okay, that's the self-display part, right? Once again, comes from an ego, right? Okay, to calm and quiet observation of the situation like a sage. So let's go to diagram 4. Okay, so this is the initial, right? That's our ego speaking that they need me, and I'll show them to to this. Okay, that's why I call it deities and sages. Okay, deities and sages. All right, deities and sages. Okay, all right, so let's talk about internal first. Okay, your mind, it's no longer about me. So it's transforming they need me to It's no longer about me, right? Your ego, no longer ego, okay? And it's transforming from I'll show them to what? I'll just observe. I don't need to interfere as much. So that's the non-interference and non-meddling. So replacing the desire, right? The desire to, the desire to interfere to non-interference and non-meddling. And that's because of the Tao, right? Once we started cultivating, we have an established practice of the Tao, we learn it's no longer about me, or we don't have to always interfere. Okay, so that's why the you is smaller now. Your ego has diminished, right? Now, externally, same thing. We can't change others, right? The other people will still, they're well-meaning, well-intentioned. They still want to help, or they want to, show us how, because we're doing it wrong. Okay, that's the interference on others. But with the Tao, established Tao, once we have established the Tao, it kind of protects us. It shields us from this type of interference from others on the external side. All right. Either way, our ego is small. Okay, Arda. All right. Okay. So, all right. Okay. So, there's a deeper meaning. Let's see. Okay. Let's look at the. Yeah. Okay. Deeper understanding is just means that at the highest level, sages represent our Buddha nature, which is at one with the Tao. So its natural state is non-conditioned, non-contrived, and does not influence, harm the thoughts with intentions or agendas. Okay, that's harm the people. The people. I'm talking about internal, right? Internal. The people are our thoughts. Okay, all right. Harm means the influence. So harm the people, meaning influence our thoughts, because the Buddha nature essence doesn't do that. Okay, it has no such. It's non-conditioned. It's not right. It doesn't affect your thoughts with intentions or agendas. Okay, so the higher understanding is internal. When the internal sage, that is the Buddha nature essence, is in charge, the sage will not influence or harm the thoughts. That's the people. Then all the thoughts and consequent actions are genuine, real, sincere, and true. All right. So all the manifestations are harmonious because they are all from the Buddha nature. That's similar to, remember chapter 58, right? Observe governance. I mean, if you just, I don't want to open up 58, but I'll just read a little bit to you. Is that right? When, therefore, the sages are what? Upright, but not scathing, not harsh. They're incorruptible, but not piercing or hurtful, right? Yeah, okay. They're straightforward, but not reckless or ruthless or wanton. Illuminated, but not dazzling or flashy. Okay, so that's the last section, the last four phrases of chapter 58. Okay, just that's what it means. Okay, all right. The implication is on the personal level. When you have a well-established cultivation practice of Tao, that is using the Tao to administer the world, you will begin to have peace of mind and no ego. So you will have no desire to interfere, intrude, or meddle. You also have the wisdom to help others when necessary, but doing so with minimal non-conditioned actions. Okay, so at the kingdom level, okay, it means governing a kingdom by using the Tao means to be in accordance with the Tao, to conform to Tao, be congruent to Tao. Whereas not using the Tao means to be contrary to Tao. Okay, so let's go to diagram 5. Okay, here. So governing the kingdom. Okay, so now there are at least two aspects, right? One's the external, one's the internal, one's literally the country, and the other one's within yourself. So you have two columns. We have two sides, right? According to Tao and contrary to Tao. Okay, so if it's according to the Tao, the demons have no power. Okay, that's the negative forces. On the other hand, if it's contrary to the Tao, then, oops, oh God, okay, hold on. Then the demons terrorize people or harm. You can say affect, harm, all the negative stuff, negative things, okay, crime, etc. Okay, if you govern the kingdom or govern your life or manage your life according to the Tao, the negative things, the negative forces will try, but are unable to harm or influence you or anyone, or in the kingdom. If it's contrary to the Tao, then the negative forces, or you can say evil spirit, do cause harm, damage, and chaos everywhere, right? In your life, okay, in the kingdom. Now, if in accordance to the Tao, sages and deities refrain from interference that can inadvertently or unintentionally harm people. They do, because especially sages, right? They do things with what? Non-conditioned. That's non-attached. That's non-conditioned, right? So they try to avoid getting entangled in the karmic affinities of others. All right. Okay. So all right. Now, on the other hand, if it's contrary to Tao, deities do want to help with good intentions. All right. But, oops, but end up meddling in their affairs. I mean, they have an intention because they have this contrivance. Which is good, but unfortunately there's unintended consequences. So that's what end up in meddling in affairs. Whereas sages may withdraw from people. They may not get involved as much. Okay, so that's when it's contrary to the Tao. Okay, now when the kingdom or when the wise ruler rules the kingdom with Tao, or when you manage your life with the Tao, then the people or the thoughts enjoy the peace and prosperity brought about with Tao. Okay, so when I say the thoughts, it just means that the thoughts are not influenced with hidden agendas, contrivance, etc. Okay, so it flows. Okay, it's harmonious. Okay, all right. When it's contrary to the Tao, the people suffer, and there seems to be okay. So that's the external side, right? That's the external, the people in the kingdom. But internally, it's your thoughts. The thoughts you'll suffer, meaning what? That means you're going to be constantly thinking. You're going to have vexations, afflictions, all that. Okay, so that's what it means. All right. Okay, so we're done with the diagrams. Now let's go to, okay, the key point is this. With a well-established cultivation and practice of Tao, you can transform your desire to meddle into non-interference. That's on the internal side, and not have the interference of other people affect you with unintended consequences. That's external. Okay, so let's go to summary part 2. Okay, the positive and the negative. Okay, positive and the negative. All right. So the one is demons. That's the external side. On the external level, negative and toxic people in your life, critics, doubters, naysayers, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, all right, that's the external side. That's what the demons represent. Okay, internally, what do the demons represent? Your own self-destructive tendencies, bad habits, fears, negative emotions, lack of faith, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, the deities or the gods on the external side are what? They are well-meaning people, well-intentioned people, that want to help you. Okay, unfortunately, that could cause unintended side effects. All right. Now, for the deities or on the internal side, it means we practice non-conditioned or non-attached actions and refrain from constantly interfering. Okay, and by calm and quiet observation, you can evaluate the situation and offer help in the form of helping them to learn how to fish rather than to just give them fish. All right. Okay. So that's what that means. Okay. Let's go to back. I think we're getting there. Let's see. Okay. So we are at the conclusion. So yeah, I got still some time. Okay. So they both do not harm each other. Therefore, virtue merges and returns. What does that mean? Okay, so this is the concluding. This is the phrases 8 and 9. Okay, all right. Let's look at the basic meaning here. The first two phrases, they both. Okay, well, okay, yeah. There are two possible interpretations of this word both. Okay, both. All right, both. Okay, there's a possible interpretations. All right. So the first one refers to demons and deities, right? Just mentioned in the previous section, section 2, right? Okay, section 2, talk about demons and They do not harm people. That is, each group coexists peacefully. So that's on a very, you can say mythological, right? Mythological level, or from the Dharma realm perspective, from the Buddha teaching, the 10 levels of Dharma, right? The demons stay in their netherworld realm, and the humans are their own, and then the deities are in their own, right? Okay, in their own celestial realms or heavens. Okay, so that's one level. Yeah, that's one possible explanation, interpretation. The second one is this. It refers to the ruler and the people. So that's the other interpretation. Okay, both meaning the ruler and the people. They do not harm one another. In other words, each side has its place, and each side has much to offer. We'll get to that table, that slide later, a little bit later. But each side has their own place. The king has its place, or the ruler has his place, and the people has their place. Okay. So now, because the first line, okay, refers to ruling a kingdom, right? Okay. Okay. So here, right? Ruling a country is like cooking a small fish, right? Okay. So ruling a kingdom, okay, or you managing your life, okay, same thing. So the second interpretation matches better, meaning that this, okay, this, all right. So this phrase, basically this phrase, they both do not harm each other. This phrase, oops, okay, is this matches, okay, about ruler and subjects, okay. So we'll go with this, even though the first one also applies, but not necessarily on the methodological level, on a more higher level, different, which we'll talk about at the end. Okay. All right. So another meaning is this: potential harm by rulers is this: they use excessive control, oppression, or tyranny. And the potential harm by people is uprising, violent overthrow of rulers, right? So that's the two sides, right? How they harm each other, right? Both the ruler and the people can coexist. They can collaborate for the good of the kingdom rather than harm another. Okay, so that's a very basic level, right? External view, external interpretation. Okay, now additional meaning is this is possible though, when both the rulers and the people can coexist peacefully, etc., and help coexist and help each other, is when the Tao is present in the kingdom. That is, everything is in accordance to the Tao. So there's peace on both sides. All right. So, okay, for the understanding here, here's what we're going to get to. So each side, that is the rulers and the people, has its place without intruding or interfering meddling upon each other. So if each side does what they are supposed to be doing, then peace and harmony prevails in the kingdom. So let's go to table E. Okay, here's first table E. Oops. Oh, yeah, we talked about this. Yeah, I think we talked about this. Yeah, we did talk about this. Okay, table E, here, the ruler and the people. All right, okay, so that's what these two is. Okay, oops. Okay, ruler and the people. So, okay, so on column A, you have the ruler and the people. Column C, you have each side its own place, and each side has its role. Okay, so for the rulers, oops. Okay, for the rulers, their place is, sorry, ugh, never mind. Okay, their 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 place is that they're on the top of the hierarchy, right? That's the way they belong, right? Okay, they're on the top of the hill, top of the heap, and they are supported. The rulers are supported by ministers, and officials who administer the policies and laws of the land, right? That's their job. That's their duties. Now, what is their responsibility? The ruler's responsibility. They have to lead, to serve as the most visible of the kingdom, and to inspire the people and rally them to the common cause, for the common good, right, of the kingdom, right? So that's what the ruler's roles are. Okay, the rulers' roles and responsibilities. Okay, so that's their place and their role and responsibility, or you can say their position. Okay. Now for the people, what about the people? Okay, the people has their place. That is, they are spread throughout the foundation, spread throughout the foundation of the kingdom, right? They serve as the foundation of the kingdom, and also they have protection and stability provided from the ruler. Okay, so that's their place, okay, or their position. But they also have a role to play, which is they have to be productive. They contribute to the society and to the kingdom. And they also have to be loyal to the kingdom and support its goals and aspirations. That's if both sides keep to their own, if both sides do this properly, right? Then there's harmony in the kingdom. Okay, so that's the idea. All right, now okay, so that's the first phrase. Okay, phrase number 8. Now let's look at the next phrase. Okay, so what's the next phrase? What's the second phrase? It says, therefore, the virtue merges and returns. Okay, so it just means that at the kingdom level, the ruler and the people work together, right? They both have their positions and have their roles and responsibilities or duties. Okay, so their virtues combine and merge harmoniously. Okay, so another meaning of this is gui, return. Okay, it literally means return. Okay, to return. All right, that's what this first phrase. All right, okay. Okay, it means to return, to go back, or to gather, but also means to be taken care of. Okay, all right, okay. So that means to return. All right, so it's important. But what the basic meaning is that, oops, sorry, right here. Okay, returning to the deeper meaning, higher level meaning of returning means to return to the oneness of the Tao, to be in accordance, to conform, to be congruent, etc., with the Tao, to the oneness. Okay, so there's both the essence and function. Okay, that's what we get at, that oneness of the Tao. So all within the kingdom are thus unified towards greatness. Right. So additional meaning at the personal level, when it says virtue merges and returns, means that for you, this is a synergistic fusion of positive energies, similar to that of the kingdom. This all starts with yourself by having practiced and accumulated your virtues, right? Remember in chapter 59, longevity, right? It's called what? Only this conservation is called submitting early. Submitting early is called emphasis on accumulation of virtues. That's phrases 3 and 4 of chapter 59. Okay, I don't call it up, but I just want to read it to you. So okay, save some time. All right. Okay, so it all starts with on the individual level, so on the personal level, is by practicing the Tao and accumulating their virtues. Okay. Now, for understanding is when your virtues combine with the goodness of the people around you, you can become something great. So this is on the external side of the personal level. While you are improving yourself, people will observe you and will come to you with their own goodness, where this synergistic fusion of virtues can be greater than the sum of its parts. So this, quote, return, unquote, also means returning to, quote, oneness, unquote. Everyone gets one step closer to enlightenment, to oneness with the Tao. Okay, now the deeper understanding is that the yin and yang both coexist. Remember the deities and the demons, okay? So the demons and the deities both coexist and flow harmoniously. That is, do not harm with each other. Flow harmoniously with each other to affect the world. That's to affect all phenomena, okay? The external world. Now, this applies to all levels. Deities, level to deities, the sages, the people, and the demons, all right? So when each group is at peace in its place, that means in its place, does not infringe or intrude upon the other groups and plays its role in accordance to the Tao, then harmony prevails in existence. in reality, or in all reality. The Tao manifests in the world, not just the kingdom, but the entire world. The world becomes a better place for all. Civilization flourishes, and there's a way for people to become enlightened. So let's go to table F. Okay, that's the last table. So we're talking about deities, sages, people, and demons. Okay, so column A, you have the four levels, okay, or four groups, okay. Now, once again, just like the previous table, column C, as each group has their place, their position, their status, and then each group has their own role. Okay, so for the deities, right? What's their place, their position? They live in the realms of the divine, the celestial heavens. But what is their role? To be avatars for virtues of human aspiration, right? Like we have certain gods or goddesses that represent certain virtues, right? Wisdom, benevolence, etc., right? All that, loyalty, right? All that stuff, right? All that. Okay, so that's to be avatars. You can say representatives or ideals, to be the ideals, the ideals of virtues for humans to aspire to, right? Okay. All right. Now, what about the sages? What are their position and their roles? So, sages live among people as part of the community. They are part of the human realm, human society. All right. So, that's their place. But what's their responsibility? To guide, assist, and nurture people, to teach the Tao, right? That's the sage's role, right? Okay. Now, what about the people? What about the peoples? Okay, so what's their place? People live in the material world. We're in the mortal realm, right? That's our place, right? Okay. Now, what's their role? To not just live, but to thrive, to learn and advance spiritually. That's the more important part, right? Okay. Now, what about the demons? The demons have their place too. They live in the netherworld, the world of darkness, underworld, whatever you want to call it, right? The the hungry ghost realm, etc., etc. Okay, all right. But they also have a role that is to provide warnings, to serve as counter examples for humans, in how to live their lives. Okay, so that's their role. So when everything is in their place and every group has their role to play and they do it properly in accordance to the Tao, everything is in harmony. Okay, so that's what this just talks about. All right. All right. So higher understanding. Now, both refers to the Tao, that's the essence, and the virtues, that's the functions, which return to the original source. This is our most ideal state. This means both the Tao, the essence, and the virtues and the functions are merged into the oneness of the Tao. This is to attain oneness, to be at one with the Tao. That's, remember, chapter 39. 39. Yeah, to attain oneness, right? Attain oneness. We talk about that. I mean, you can go, that's a long chapter, so you guys can refer back to it. Okay, that's when everything is at oneness, everything is in harmony at all the different levels. Okay, all right. All right. Okay. So the implication is this. Yeah, almost there. Okay. So for some modern applications of this chapter's metaphors, okay, we can see we'll see summary 3. But in your life, okay, this transforms to your relationship with others. If the Tao is present in your life, then peace and harmony prevails. You and everyone around you share in the positive energy. Thus, no one is harmed. Everyone benefits. It all starts with you when you improve yourself with Tao. So let's go to summary part 3. All right, so here's the modern application. Okay, in life, we have different roles in different settings. Okay, so at work, we have job duties, right? So that's our position in work and life. We have work, and then we also have our own duties. Okay, so at the position at home, we have multiple duties and roles in the family, right? We could be the spouse, husband or wife to our partner, or the father or mother to our children, right? Et cetera, right? Okay. At the social position, we have friends, we have social obligations, right? Okay. So in each role, here's the key. In each role, okay, be it at work, home, or social, okay, in each role, okay, there's the key is the following. Know where you are, sorry, in the overall scheme of things. Where you stand, what is your position, where you stand, okay? And know what is required to play your role. Yeah, you know, there are requirements, right? To be a father, to be a parent, to be a husband or a wife or spouse, right? Okay, or to be a manager or a worker or whatever, right? So they're responsible. They're you can say job requirements or they're requirements for the position. Okay, and then you also have to know how you can contribute. What role? What kind of role? How can you play that role? How can you optimize it? How can you optimize your abilities or your knowledge, et cetera, right? So there's a Western expression, right? So it came from the English poet, okay, 19th century English romantic poet Robert Browning. He said, God's in his heaven, all is right with the world. It just means that everything seems to be in perfect order. Everything seems to work, flow harmoniously, peacefully throughout the world, okay, or throughout the society, throughout your life, et cetera, all right, okay? So that just means that everything. So this means a feeling of comfort and reassurance from all things being properly situated and aligned. Everything is in its place. Everything is playing its part properly, correctly, and therefore everything is harmonious and peaceful. Okay, so that's what okay it means. All right, so okay, am I near the end? Yes, I am. Okay. All right, let's do the conclusion now. Where are we? Okay, here. All right, so the key is this. This chapter points out to us a key point. There's a key point that is to use the Tao, to apply the Tao, or which is to use our birthless and vanishingless Buddha nature to deal with worldly matters, to apply the Tao in the earthly life. So remember, the title is ruling a kingdom or ruling a large country. So it's not just at the external side, which is talking about a ruler ruling a kingdom, but it's talking about us ruling a large country, which is our life. That's our lives. Okay, it's ruling a country. So we have to use the Tao to deal with the worldly matters. All right, goodbye. So this means to return to the natural state of our Buddha nature, the unperturbed, non-conditioned state, where all the manifestations or virtues are in harmony with everything. That's the yin and yang, the demons and the deities, where they do not harm anyone, okay? Because everything is harmonious. Now, at the personal level, this is how you manage your life, or how a ruler rules a great kingdom. This is how the ruler governs a great kingdom. I think this is everything. So I finished, 75 minutes, 76 minutes. That's good. Okay. So if I said anything wrong or incorrect, I ask for the Buddha's and Lao Tzu's understanding, forgiveness, and ask for everybody's guidance. Okay. Thank you. This concludes the chapter 60.